Hello and welcome to Mulch, with me, your host Rebecca Anning-Brown. This is a weekly podcast for flower farmers who want to build a confident flower farming practice that reflects the lifestyle that you want now and in the future. Each week I'll share conversation and tips to nurture and grow you and your flower farm. I'll open conversations that flower farmers find difficult to talk about, provide approaches that will help you to make decisions, chuckle at the idiosyncrasies of our work, and always be real and honest about my own work as a flower farmer. My goal is to help you to grow a curious, confident and grounded flower farming practice that flourishes as a business that you love and are proud to shout about. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and if you like what you hear, please do leave a review and share the podcast with your flower farming friends. It really does help to grow a confident and successful flower farming community. Hello and welcome to Mulch. I'm Rebecca and I am your host in this very first episode. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us and for listening to our show as we start. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Rebecca. I'm a flower farmer in Leeds, West Yorkshire, and our business name is Silver Grey Foliage. So when I say we is myself, my husband Anthony, and our two children, who are affectionately known as the junior section. In this first episode, I would like to set the scene for future episodes and talk about what to expect. I'm really not going to talk much today about Auntie and I and the children, or to be honest, a huge amount about the background of our business, because I think that will unfold in the episodes as they come, and as we talk about our learning and share the tips that we have come across over time. So what am I going to talk about? Well, I thought I'd tell you a little bit about the reason for starting a podcast. I love talking about flowers and foliage so much, and I love looking at flowers and foliage, and I love touching flowers and foliage. I love talking about flowers and foliage. I'm completely embarrassing to my husband and children when I walk around kind of local driveways and just pop up to have a closer look at a flower or plant. Honestly, I am completely obsessed with our growing business and with our product, our flowers and foliage. I love them. I'm so obsessed with growing cut flowers that it's almost in every room of our house. And if you are a flower farmer, I'm sure that you will recognise that feeling or awareness of walking into rooms and thinking, goodness, it's in here too. I think that's obsession with growing cut flowers, for florists predominantly for us, hasn't overridden my training and experience in other roles. And so I am really quite pragmatic and sometimes a bit ruthless, because the space that we have to grow in is limited. We're on an acre currently, but in growing terms that's really on the smaller side, and so I need to make sure that anything that is on our space, on our land, is really earning it, either in productivity or longevity, or by being multifunctional, and that we're feeding and nurturing our land and resting it regularly so that it can continue to deliver that abundance. And I think it's really important that that balance of obsession of having as much as possible is really kind of tempered by the need to look after the space that we've been given to use. So with that in mind, in my previous careers, in my other jobs, I have done a lot of teaching and training and supporting and coaching, and I really miss that in my flower farming world. I really miss being able to share things that we've learned that have really made a difference to how we work, And whilst we're on Instagram and YouTube, and links to those channels are in the show notes below, it's not the same. It's not the same as talking. And so I thought this would be a good way to share what we're doing and to open up conversations that we've found difficult to address and that maybe you do too. Anthony and I are relatively new to business, and when I say relatively new, I mean that in reality our first and only business is Silver Grey Foliage, and it has it's been a real learning curve, because whilst we've both worked for other organisations, corporates, the NHS, big companies and small companies, it's always been a challenge to sit with and really land with the business ethics elsewhere. And so when you're working for yourself, the mindset is completely different, and our approach has to be different, both for the business to succeed and for us to thrive within it. And that has been such an enormous learning curve for us. I think it's important to say that when I refer to that mindset being different for us as business owners, neither of us are disregarding our previous experiences or training, and if anything, being aware of what we can do and what we've learnt to do elsewhere and really harnessing those skills has and is working to our advantage, and we're going to talk about that more, I guess, as the show goes on. The key thing for me to note in this introduction is that no matter what career or personal background you have, I have really learned over the past 4 years, and in particular over the past year, that it's not just about our business ethics and values, but it's also about our lives and our lifestyle choices, and most importantly, our well-being. And the way that we approach that is very different from a business perspective to how we have approached it working for other organisations. It takes time to realise that, and I think it takes time to adjust and develop your own approach, and that's completely okay. So I'm new to podcasting. This is my first podcast. I'm not sure I will ever have another one. I've done one podcast before. That was for Let's Grow Girls, and I have put a link to that in the show notes below. Honestly, I was so nervous. We talked about our flower farm, how we started. We talked a lot about eucalyptus because we grow that, and it was our first main crop. We talked about the Flower Farmer's Planner, which is a planner written by me as a flower farmer for other flower farmers to help you to gather all of the information that you need to understand your business and to grow it profitably. It's in its second edition at the moment, so the 2024 edit is out and available, and we do have a few copies left. Links to that, again, are in the show notes below. I think I find myself talking to myself as a business owner a lot. I have realised and become more and more aware that the junior section completely glaze over now when I start talking about flowers or the business or how many stems we've cut or what we'll be doing next in the field. And personally, I find writing hard at the moment, so I have sent out fewer newsletters recently because whilst I can talk, I find it really difficult to get things down on paper. I'm really hopeful that a podcast will be a good way to communicate, and I would really like to share, I guess through the eyes of my previous and other jobs and experience, what I hope you will find helpful and constructive tricks and advice or approaches and interpretations of the flower farming world. Flower farming is really quite niche. It's really is no surprise that my friends can only get a little interested in the size of a ranunculus claw, or where I found a new good supply of manure. And if you're a flower farmer, I'm sure that you feel that in your friends and relatives too. I think insight into the funny side of our work and knowing that you are not alone is so important as you work to make a difference in the sustainable flower farming market. So you should expect me to poke fun a little bit at myself and our profession, because if you can't laugh and gain joy from your work, you must ask yourself, why am I doing this? Finally, being a flower farmer is flipping hard work. You dig, you sow, you lift, you carry, you cut, you bend, you clean, you deliver, you market, you photograph, you communicate, you sell, you research, you test. I could go on. We do so much. And the number of hats that we wear in this job is incredible. It's no wonder that flower farmers get tired. And so I really want to support you to get the most out of your business, and also to give the most back to yourself as you continue to grow beautiful flowers and foliage. So what can you expect moving forwards? Well, more of the same. I will be predominantly doing some solo episodes, so just me. I may, if he'll oblige, do a couple of recordings with Anthony. And I think that will both be hilarious to you guys, seeing how we chunter away at each other, but also hearing both sides of the story as to how things work behind the scenes. I'll be offering honest discussion around flower farming habits and business and career transition, and trying to answer or share the answers to all those questions that I've asked. And believe me, I have asked a lot of questions over the past 4 years. I do have a long list of topics that I want to talk about, but I would genuinely love to know what you would like to hear on the show. So if there are things that you'd like me to discuss, things that you want to know more about, areas of the flower farming practice or scene that you would love to explode and drop a little bombshell on, just drop me an email. My email address is rebecca@silvergreyfoliage.com. It's in the show notes below, and I would love to hear from you. Thank you. Thank you for listening to this first rambly episode. Please do follow the show. Please do share it with your Instagram stories, with your flower farming friends, and please do leave me a review, because it really will help to grow the community that is around and here. Thank you for listening to Mulch. I hope that you found it useful. To find the show notes, head back to our website, where you'll find links to all the things that I've been talking about in today's episode. If you're on Instagram, you can find us at Silver Grey Foliage. I would appreciate it so much if you were able to share this episode in your Instagram stories. And if you are able to leave a review, it really will help more people to get on and grow. I'll be back with you next Monday to talk about more flower farming in practice. Rebecca.